Hello everyone, thank you for watching. Today we are going to be doing a tutorial on how to lube your responsive yo-yo bearing and your unresponsive yo-yo bearing. So what we're going to be doing is first we're going to show you how to lube your responsive yo-yo bearing. So here is how we are going to do it. So first things first, you take your thick yo-yo lube and then you see that one half of the yo-yo is going to have your responsive bearing. And then the other half of the yo-yo is going to, of course, have no responsive bearing at all. It's just going to have the bearing seat. And the axle may be sticking out right here. It doesn't really matter which side the axle's on. So anyways, you're going to take the other half of the yo-yo with no bearing, and you're going to see that there's this bearing seat right up against where the axle holder is. What we're going to do is we're going to take our thick lube, and we're going to squeeze it and get some lube right there on the right at the end of the fine point, and we are going to push down. And we're going to start right here and go just like this, just like that, in a half moon. And see, I just squeezed and lube just went right in the, just like that. So you don't want to lube the whole circle, just half of it. That's enough. Then of course you're going to put your yo-yo back together and test it to see if it's playing responsive enough. If it's still not responsive enough, then here's what you do. So instead of applying more on the bearing seat's got enough lube now, okay? So what we're going to do is we're now just going to apply some in the bearing itself. So we're going to push, see, I'm going to be just sticking it right in there and squeezing and just applying a ton of it just right in like one spot. And then don't put too much, maybe just a drop. I didn't mean to say a ton, just a drop. And then put it back together and try. Then, if it's still not responsive enough, add more lube to the bearing. At that point, of course, it should be responsive enough. But if it's all preference. If you want it to play more responsive, just add more lube. However, adding more thick lube to a responsive yo-yo bearing slows the bearing speed, so it won't spin for very long if you apply a bunch of lube. Alrighty, so that is how you lube a responsive yo-yo. So we're going to move all this out of the way. And the main part of the video here is how I lube my unresponsive yo-yo bearing. So right here we've got an unresponsive bearing. I have this bearing deshielded, which means that it doesn't have basically it means that you can see the balls that are all inside. If your bearing is not like that, it doesn't matter. This method works for both, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's deshielded or not. Alrighty, so what we're going to do is I'm going to have to set my camera down so that you can actually see me do this part. So what we are going to be doing is we're going to take the bearing just like this. Well, actually, first we're going to take the lube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger here, and we're just going to take the fine point tip of the lube bottle and just kind of raise a little bit above and squeeze one drop just like that, and it's going to go around my finger. Then we're going to take, you can see my finger shiny there from the lube. Then we're going to take the unresponsive yo-yo bearing, and we're going to just push it up against my finger just like so. And I'm going to rub the lube in just one side of the bearing. Just get it all just around that inside spot there. If it's shielded, that doesn't matter. You're just going to rub the outside of the shields. It'll seep into the bearing just like that, and just rub it. And then just, a few times, and then that's good. That is all the lube that it needs, because like on yoyotricks.com even they say you just want to put half, maybe even just a fourth of a drop of thin lube in your unresponsive bearing, because it can make the bearing slow down, and then you'll have to clean it if you put too much. And so always make sure to keep this in mind. If you put too little lube, you can always add more. If you put too much lube, you can't just take lube out unless you want to clean it, which is a very lengthy process. It's awful. So that is how you lube your your unresponsive bearing with thin lube. Alrighty, so that basically wraps this video up. I buy my lube off of yoyotricks.com because I've always had pretty good success with this lube. It just seems to work the best for me. And so yeah, they have both thick and thin. Make sure that you know that thick lube is for responsive play, where you tug the yo-yo back up. Thin lube is for unresponsive yo-yo bearings. One more thing I would like to say, if you are watching this video and you're wanting to know why your yo-yo is like spinning really loud and like really with unresponsive, it's going shh, that kind of sound with your bearing, applying just the way I did, applying the thin lube into the bearing like that, that should fix that sound. If it still doesn't work, you can always try it one more time. Maybe you didn't get enough lube in there, but try that same method one more time. And if it's still not doing it, still not working, it's still playing, maybe even playing a little responsive or something, then you're going to have to clean your bearing. And I will not, as of right now, I'll not be doing a tutorial on that. But anyway, so like lubing your bearing is something that you have to do to make sure that your bearing stays in tip-top shape. So if you lube your bearing regularly on a, like, basically you'll know when you need to lube your bearing if it's making like weird noises and stuff all the time, or maybe even playing a bit responsive. I'm talking about like unresponsive bearings right now, just so you know. So so yeah, that's basically it. Just lube it regularly whenever you feel that you need to, if it's making noises or something, and you won't ever really have to clean your bearing. But applying too much, like I said, will make you have to clean your bearing. It's awful. So anyway, that's all the information I have to share with you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more.